In our series called The Power of One, which has become a weekly staple, Kim Lengle brings us inspirational stories from people around the region. Tonight's story all about conviction and integrity and staying true to one's strongly held beliefs. Kim now has more.
That's right, Rich. Jazz has always had its share of notable Jewish artists, from Benny Goodman to Sammy Davis Jr. This tradition continues today, supported by a new wave of young jazz musicians making their own mark in New York City. Just 9% of jazz students are Jewish, but for one student, the decision to fully commit himself to religion put him at odds with his passion to play music. His decision to leave Juilliard was controversial, almost unheard of among his family, friends, and teachers. He says it took a lot of strength, and since he's made the decision, what used to be notes on paper turned to melodies from his heart.
I'll go where you want me to go, and I'll see what you tell me to see, just as long as we work on one condition, that you take me to infinity.
16-year-old Asher Elbaz says music is a mode of spiritual expression. Whether he's playing in New York City clubs, outside, or in his bedroom.
My religious identity is something that drives all of my music forward. And I wouldn't say it in such a clear sense, like, I don't go walking around with my guitar and going, hey, I'm Orthodox, But I feel like that spirit of everything that I believe in, everything that I practice in my everyday life is always present in my music.
When Asher performs in clubs, he stands out. One, because of his young age, and two, because he always wears a yarmulke, a religious covering for his head. But by the end of his performance, Asher says the audience doesn't see the yarmulke because he's made such a strong connection.
First is like age. They're like, wow, you're really young. Then I take my hat off, and now I'm Orthodox. Like, now he's young, and he's Orthodox. It's like you don't see it a lot, so it's like a shell shock reaction, I think. It's like really, it's culture shock. And I think people really react positively to it from my experience. I love it. I mean, it's a kind of thrill for me.
But Asher admits it wasn't always this way. In 6th grade, he transferred into an Orthodox school, leaving behind his secular childhood. 2 years later, now keeping kosher, one thing separated him from the other students he prayed with. He still attended Juilliard on Saturdays, a day that's supposed to be for rest and worship.
So I told my parents, and I said, listen, you might think I'm crazy, but I want to keep Shabbos, and I don't want to go to Juilliard on Saturday. I always get that from people. But it's Juilliard. Why couldn't you stay there? Why couldn't you keep going? And I feel like that's when integrity comes in. I feel like that's when a person really establishes himself, says, okay, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing. And when a person is really ready to take those steps and be true to himself, I think that's more rewarding than any school or any prestigious position.
Now, in addition to Asher's musical talents, he's also a phenomenal speechwriter. He writes about religion and life, and during his latest speech at the United Nations, it was so moving, he's been invited back. Rich?
Kid's incredible.
Isn't he? His parents are very proud.
My gosh. Amazing kid. I think back to 16 was,
I know, what we were doing at 16.
God. Great story. Thank you, Kim.